Story begins with a married couple, Jesse and General, who decide to take a break from their busy lives and go on a romantic vacation far away from the city. Their marriage has been going through a rough patch for quite some time, and this trip is their attempt to rekindle their relationship and spend some quality time together without distractions. As they drive through a secluded road surrounded by wilderness, they encounter a startling sight. A stray dog appears out of nowhere in front of their car. The dog is eating the flesh of a dead animal, which lies gruesomely on the road. General, who is driving, immediately stops the car and begins honking the horn repeatedly to scare the dog away. After a few seconds of honking, the dog reluctantly moves away from the road, and the couple resumes their journey. They finally arrive at their destination, a charming yet isolated lake house. Jessie is visibly excited as she steps out and admires the peaceful surroundings, thrilled at the idea of spending time here. However, General's behavior was the complete opposite of hers. He appeared distant and withdrawn. As he entered the house, he quietly excused himself and took some medication, careful not to let Jessie notice. Later, Jessie steps outside the house and calls for the stray dog she had seen earlier, wanting to feed it out of compassion. Just then, General comes out to check on her, and they both head back inside together. Jessie notices that the house door remains open, but chooses to ignore it, dismissing it as unimportant. Inside the house, Jessie changes into a beautiful dress, looking happy and glowing. General notices her and feels a spark between them. He suggests they try something wild to make things more exciting in their relationship. He had been thinking about this for some time. With a playful smile, he says, "I'll act like I'm forcing myself on you and you can scream and resist all you want." Jessie looks unsure and nervous at first. After thinking for a moment, she agrees, though still a little hesitant. The mood becomes tense and exciting as they prepare to try this bold idea together. General approaches Jessie and gently places handcuffs on her wrists, securing her to the bed. At first, the game seems harmless and playful, and both of them laugh as they engage in the roleplay. However, things take an uncomfortable turn when Jessie starts feeling uneasy. She tells General to stop and pleads with him to remove the handcuffs, but General refuses. This disagreement escalates into a heated argument. Jessie accuses General, saying, "You are the reason why our relationship has fallen apart." General, already frustrated and under stress, suddenly clutches his chest and collapses. Jessie watches in horror as he suffers a massive heart attack. Unbeknownst to her, he had overdosed on the medication he had taken earlier. Moments later, General dies, leaving Jessie handcuffed and helpless. Panicking, Jessie tries to wake General up, calling his name repeatedly and shaking him. In her desperation, she tries to push his lifeless body off her, causing it to fall onto the floor with a heavy thud. Jessie realizes she is now completely alone in the house. She screams for help, her voice echoing into the stillness, but the house sat secluded in the heart of the woods, far from any neighbors who might hear her pleas. The evening slowly faded into night, shadows lengthening and deepening around her. To her shock, the stray dog she had noticed earlier wandered into the house, slipping through the open door as though it belonged there. The dog moves toward General's lifeless body and starts biting it, tearing off chunks of flesh and eating it. Jessie tries to scare the dog away, screaming and thrashing, but it does not leave. She watches in terror as the dog feasts on her husband's corpse. Suddenly, Jessie is shocked to see General stand up and begin talking to her as if nothing had happened. Confused, she looks at the floor and sees General's body still lying there. It dawns on her that she is hallucinating. General, or rather the hallucination of him, starts mocking Jessie, revealing dark truths about their marriage. He taunts her about his insecurities and their failed relationship, saying, "If you stay tied up here too long, you will die of hunger and thirst. No one is coming to save you." Jessie starts experiencing more vivid hallucinations, this time involving her own shadow. The shadow speaks to her, revealing painful and suppressed truths about her past. It forces her to confront emotions and memories she had buried deep within herself. Amid these hallucinations, Jessie remembers something crucial. General had left a glass of water on the shelf above the bed. Though it is barely within her reach, she gathers her strength and tries to grab it. After a long struggle, she manages to hold onto the glass but realizes she cannot drink directly from it while tied up. In a stroke of ingenuity, Jessie tears the shopping tag from her dress and rolls it into a makeshift straw. She uses it to sip water, quenching her thirst just enough to keep her going. Exhausted from the effort, she falls asleep. When she wakes up, the room is engulfed in darkness. Jessie notices a strange, terrifying man standing inside the house. The man holds up a trinket bag filled with bones and other creepy items. Jessie initially believes she is hallucinating again, but General's shadow appears and tells her, "This is death itself, waiting for you." The hallucination of General begins calling her Mouse, a name that triggers memories of her abusive stepfather, Tom. Jessie recalls how, when she was 12 years old, her family had gone to a lake to witness a solar eclipse. During that trip, her stepfather had tried to molest her, asking her to sit on his lap. Now, the hallucinations of General and Jessie's shadow taunt her, saying, "You ended up marrying a man who was just as awful as your stepfather." Jessie notices footprints on the floor, realizing that the strange man in the house is real, and not a figment of her imagination. She remembers how her mother had ignored her stepfather's abusive behavior despite knowing the truth. Her hands, tied for so long, start losing blood circulation, and she realizes she will die if she doesn't act quickly. Summoning her courage, she breaks the glass of water and uses a shard to cut her wrist slightly. This prevents her hand from going numb and helps her slide her wrist out of the handcuff, though it painfully tears her skin in the process. Finally, she manages to unlock her other hand and bandage her wounds. However, she has lost a significant amount of blood and feels extremely weak. Jessie faints but regains consciousness to find the strange man still in the house. Desperate, she removes her wedding ring and offers it to the man as if to appease him. Taking advantage of the moment, she runs out of the house, gets into her car, and starts driving away. While on the road, she starts seeing visions of the strange man in her car, causing her to panic and crash into a tree. Hearing the sound of the crash, some villagers from nearby houses come to her aid, and Jessie is finally rescued. 6 months later, Jessie writes a heartfelt letter to her 12-year-old self. In the letter, she reflects on how she had pretended to forget the painful events of her past to avoid facing difficult questions. With the money she inherited from General, she starts a foundation to help victims of abuse. However, the memories of that terrifying man continue to haunt her every night in her dreams. One day, Jessie reads in the newspaper about a serial killer who steals bones and jewelry from his victims. He also defiles corpses and eats their faces. This explains why the strange man spared Jessie and why General's face was so grotesquely disfigured. Jessie attends the trial of the strange man. Before leaving for court, she had told herself, "You are not real. You are just a hallucination." In court, the man eerily repeats her words, confirming that he was indeed real. Jessie sees her stepfather and General reflected in this man and confronts him, saying, "You are smaller than the monsters I remember." With newfound strength and confidence, Jessie walks away from the courtroom, victorious in reclaiming her life.